All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Best Listener in the Room podcast. Today we are talking about the power of silence. Silence. It is the holy grail of listening. We're going to start off with the Bible. This is Proverbs 17:28. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise. And he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. Another version reads like this: even a fool who keeps silent is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is deemed intelligent. In philosophy, Epictetus is the one who's known for saying that we have two ears and one mouth for a reason. There's definitely wisdom here when it comes to silence. I was talking to my producer, Tyler, this morning, and we're looking for the image for the thumbnail. And it's interesting because I couldn't find what I was looking for. I looked under silence, I looked under quiet, and I kept getting pictures of people like this and this, and it was everything I found was feeling more restrained, and I was looking for this. There's a certain look you can see in people's eyes that I'm talking about, which is the power that comes from silence. And anyway, in the search, there happened to be an owl as one of the photos. It wasn't what I had searched, and Tyler brought the owl to my attention, and we talked about the owl a bit this morning. And what's fascinating about the owl is known for wisdom. The wise old owl. And Tyler was explaining some things to me that he knows about the owl that I found very, very relevant for today's topic. He was telling me that the owl's feathers are designed in such a way that it can fly silently. Think of the power that you have as a predator in nature when you can fly silently before the attack. What does that mean? It means like no one sees you coming. The owl is also known for its 360-degree head turn. Literally, not literally, figuratively, has eyes in the back of its head because it can just turn around. And again, without making a sound. So it's almost like the owl sees all, hears all, and then therefore it's wise. It can make the best decisions. So what does this mean for us? I'm gonna jump into improvisation as an actor today. So when you're improvising, here's what happens. You talk, and then everything you say, your scene partner is going to have to deal with that information. In other words, what you say, you're now going to be held accountable for. So I believe in this idea of you really focus on the behavior. You focus on the emotion. You focus on the moment. I actually don't really love it when improv scenes are slow. This has nothing to do with being slow. This has to do with finding what you really intended to say, processing the information, and allowing your computer to spit out the exact wording that you're going for. You say what you mean to say. Or you say what you mean and you mean what you say. People are so often misinterpreted because they'll blurt something out. Right? How many times in your life have you gotten yourself in trouble in some way? And you're like, well, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean what I said. You know, that's not what I meant. And how much easier would life be if you took your time and said exactly what you mean? You see, life is an improvisation. Each and every day of our lives, we are improvising moment to moment. You think you have a script. It feels like I'm writing the script for tomorrow. And I've written the script for this week and this month, and I know what I'm going to be doing and who I'm going to be, but none of that stuff's true. None of it. You wake up and you don't know until the moment happens. You have no idea what you were going to say to the person behind the counter when you're checking out for your groceries. You think you know, but you don't know until the moment comes. And this is how, when acting in life, when you figure out how parallel they are, it becomes essential for you to be training in this area constantly. Not to be a great actor of the stage necessarily, but to be a great actor within your life. You see, there's a power that comes from silence. Admittedly, I'm not always the best at this, but I've gotten pretty good at listening, being still in the moment, and not rushing to speak, even in everyday life. We have we had a teacher here, lovely girl. Many of you know her. Her name's Riley. She goes by Mooney here at the studio, and she's we're very proud of her. She's off at Alabama right now, studying. But she was teaching here for a while, and she had this young, delightful energy. And what's so funny is, I remember this must have happened on several occasions where she'd come up to me with all this energy and she'd be like, I have this idea and this is what I'm thinking and this and that. And I would look at her and I'm just processing, like, that's it. And then she'd answer for me. She'd be like, oh, okay. So it's not good. So it's just, you don't like it, but it could work, right? Like, it's fine. And then she's like, I wish you would talk. And she would do all these things, and it was, it was funny. It was funny and delightful. But what else is interesting is, like, half the time she worked herself through her own problem she was bringing to me. She just needed to say it out loud, and I didn't have to say a word for her to get to the answer. And in fact, had I rushed to say something, it might have taken her longer to get there, or it might have confused the situation more. So being quiet is an essential part of listening. It's an essential part of being a great listener. Obviously, you're going to need to communicate. And we'll talk about how and when to do that on a different episode. But when you're quiet, there's a power. And the power you have is potential. Because once something's out of the bag, once I've let it go, now I got to deal with it. If I could have just held it in, I would still have that card left to play. But once it's out, you can't get it back. I'm going to leave you with this. This is the opposite of power. And that is when you talk too much, or you talk too quick, or you talk without even thinking, you fill the silences, you give in to the pressure, you gossip. I'm going to paraphrase something from the play Doubt. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning play by John Patrick Shanley. And in that play, the priest is giving a sermon, and he's talking about a story of a Monsignor. And he's counseling an old woman. And she comes to him for confession, and she says, "Father, forgive me, for I've sinned. I've been gossiping against my neighbor." "Is this a sin, Father? Is it?" And the Monsignor says, Yes, it is, you horrible woman." It's a play, it's funny. "Yes, it is, you horrible woman. Gossip is a sin." And he tells her what to do. And he says, "Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go up to the roof with a pillow. I want you to cut open the pillow and let the feathers fly out in the wind." That's her penance. "Then I want you to come back here and see me again." So the old woman goes home. She cuts open the pillow. She lets all the feathers fly out in the wind. The next day she goes back to the Monsignor. And he says, "Did you cut the pillow?" She says, "Yes, Father." He says, "Good. Now I want you to go back out and gather up every last feather that flew out in the wind." And she says, "Well, I can't, Father." He says, "Why not?" "Well, I don't know where they all went." And the Monsignor says, "And that is gossip." So if there's a power to silence, which there is, and every action has an opposite and equal reaction. If silence is power, then talking too much, talking too quick, talking in a rash way, gossiping is the opposite of power. So if you are around people, if you're a part of something and you feel that gossipy energy, run, because you don't want to be a part of it by association. I'm sure you've done it, because we all have, but if you catch yourself, stop. Stop. Let the silence come. Say what you mean to say. and you will experience the power of silence. All right. Hope this was awesome for you guys. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for listening to the Best Listener in the Room podcast.